I forget about something and you just squeeze it in. It might not fit on that little tiny piece of paper.
Is this the one that ends with, and we need a way for pipeline, like the triggered by keyword? Is this that thing?
This one ends in, how do we actually do this without losing our minds? All right. Let's think about CI creates auto deploy branch, which means we run a schedule in project. So this is going to be release tools. Release tools. Release tools now triggers off pushes a tag. Okay, that does not matter. This is just pushing branches. All right, let's do this one. This one is the actual fun part. All right. Release tool in this case is going to query the API, gather whatever it needs, and then it is going to do the following. It will trigger a package build. Is this too late already?
Is what?
I don't know. I'm asking you and I don't know what I'm asking.
We're talking about our auto deploy branch process?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Or are you trying to describe what we're doing now?
I'm trying to describe all the pipelines that we trigger.
When?
Current.
During the, from
When we tag
preparation.
monthly release?
When we tag a monthly release, for example.
There's a visualization for this in the product.
Yeah, we added that. We added that, but we added more since,
okay.
and I want to kind of share that with you so you can.
Well,
Since the last release, because we look at the last release and see what was triggered by what. Is that possible?
I don't know. Let's give me a second to see how do I actually. All right. So release tool is going to trigger a build in omnibus, in CE, and in EE. But the problem is, omnibus also depends on these two. So we have a dependent pipeline here. This is the green commit stuff. So this pipeline also needs to pass. This needs to pass before this passes, and then this needs to build, and that needs to pass. Once that passes, we go to another project, and this project is deployer, right? And deployer triggers three builds. Well, no, one build, staging, deploy to staging. And then you manually trigger canary and production.
Well, also QA issue in terms of, QA issue.
Oh, you're right. And deployer triggers also in staging QA project. It triggers a pipeline, right?
No, QA is manual right now.
It's inside of the same pipeline?
Yeah, we get only the QA smoke test is automated. That's inside of the deployer, right?
The QA part.
Yeah.
But we also trigger the staging QA, right?
The QA issue?
No, not the staging. No, we don't trigger the staging pipeline.
Ignore this. The problem is, from this point to this point, which is supposed to be our direct line, right? Like we are releasing this to production. There is no way, easy way at least, from what we have currently, to visualize this one pipeline and all its dependent pipelines, not only within one instance, but this is cross GitLab instances as well, some of these. So this is, for example, in ops, this is on dev, this is on .com.
Yeah.
And I know that we've been talking about triggered by,
Yeah.
but is that implemented and can it be even used in this use case of ours?
Well, so triggered and triggered by are two variations of the same thing. It just depends on if you want deployer to automatically trigger itself whenever an omnibus run happens, then you can do that. Or the other way you can encode it is by having omnibus trigger it. And different, it's almost like the org structure depends on which version makes the most sense for you. Like if you're in a situation where you're at a big company, you know there's a different team in another department somewhere that you're dependent on them deploying their microservice. And so whatever they do, you want to rerun yours to pick up like the latest signatures or whatever. But you don't necessarily want to tell them to like add a step in their build to kick off your build. So you can just mark yours as like, I'm dependent on them, so whenever they run, let me run. But either way, it is building a relationship between the two.
And through the API, right? Like it can go through cross instances or not?
Yes, it can. And it can also visualize it, but in any case, these relationships are only created at the moment that's triggered. So you can't see a potential view based on this. There's a different feature that we're looking at, directed acyclic graph, which I posted a link in the team chat just a second ago. That's kind of this grand unified theory of CI/CD, and one of the elements in there is to be able to encode this relationship into a single pipeline, and then that would work. Maybe it would exist in release tools, maybe it would exist in something else that's kind of like across all of this. But that would be one big master pipeline that implements multiple pipelines across the projects.
All right, so that's being planned.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that would kind of help us out.
The other thing that we're looking at, I don't know if it would help too much, but is making it so that you can depend on artifacts that are produced by a pipeline. This is more of a kind of Meltano or maybe security use case, but maybe it's valuable for you. That you could say if any pipeline or any job produces an artifact named X, then this job should be made aware and run. So a good example is like a JUnit.xml file. It means that you ran some tests. Maybe you want to create a job that handles that output and puts it somewhere. But otherwise you don't care.
Theoretically, like if we create a package and leave it as an artifact, we don't have to put it in package call. We don't have to push it somewhere else. We can actually just pull it here, install it directly, and only when we are ready we can publish it somewhere.
Yeah, and we're also, another item that's related to that is we're looking at adding workspaces that would be like a shared workspace that could be referenced by all of these. And you wouldn't have to have that intermediate step where like, yeah, you're putting things in some place for other things to pick up. Because we have caching, but that's not guaranteed. We have artifacts, and that's really awkward to use.
It's awkward to use.
Yeah. And workspaces will be something that's designed for this purpose.
All right. We're going to need to play a bit with the triggers and triggered by, because I think some of these things might be simplified with them.
Yeah, and there is potentially so one thing that we're adding, a couple things we're adding. We're adding a pipeline dashboard and an environment dashboard. We could also add like a pipeline relationship dashboard or something like that that would let you explore something like this.
Visualize.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to ask, this specific case, I know that there was an issue for creating multiple pipelines within one pipeline?
Multiple pipelines within one project.
So what I want to achieve here, for example, is something triggers a deployer here. I want to create 3 separate pipelines out of that same commit that are doing different things.
That are not related to each other, really.
No, not really. Like for example, I would like this to execute automatically, but I would like these 2 to be created and be manual.
Right. We're not solving that exactly. There is an issue out there for that. The way that we're solving this initially, and I'm curious if it will be good enough, is through the directed acyclic graph, where you can, basically the easiest way to think about that is that there's a new keyword called depends on or something like that. And forget stages, forget anything, like there's only these depends on relationship that builds out a graph, just like the Git graph really. It just runs everything as quickly as possible, and if something depends on something, then it queues it behind it until that exists. So you could build this, it would be a single pipeline, but it would have kind of its three branches.
Visually, it would be presented as 3 branches, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it would be, so the one thing that we have today is, so you have a pipeline, and it can have like multiple jobs or whatever that like run in different stages, but each of these is a hard limit where like all of these need to finish if they're marked, and then it can go over. So with DAG, it would be more like, you know, something like this, and you could get to any of these points. Like if this got stuck here, you could still get here, no problem. And then once this opened, then these two would go, and they would run in parallel, and everything will just follow its dependency graph rather than pausing at the stages. So it would let you sort of achieve this, but if there's something very specific about wanting it to be 3 different pipelines, then it wouldn't.
Okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be, it just needs to give us a bit more flexibility, because right now we are using this, and for example, we say, like if we want to say staging, canary, production, if something fails here, we can't progress.
Continue, yeah.
And that's a big problem, because,
Yeah.
for example, flaky QA test might fail. We confirm manually everything is fine, and we cannot get it running. We don't want to retag.
Yeah.
We want to continue because we manually verified and progress further. And that would help.
This will solve that
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. And that's the problem, that we don't have to have then multiple pipelines, because it would allow us to just focus on one pipeline for one commit, and this is how that one commit reached all these environments. But they're non-blocking.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So check out the link that I shared in the channel, and there's more ideas in there as well. And let me know where it resonates or not.
Yeah, will do. All right, cool. I'm kind of need to stop a bit. Thanks.